From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here are your hosts, the Vegabomber PJ Dunn and the film samurai Carlos Salinas.
All right, welcome everybody. That's right, you are here at the Fulfillment Show. I am the Vegabomber. PJ Dunn is the man behind the camera set, and also to my right is the film samurai himself.
Good morning, everybody. Ready to talk movies?
Yes, sir. We are ready to do this. Now, to get started today, just so you know, if this is your first time watching, if you like collecting films, if you like talking about films, if you like watching movies and inviting your friends over to come watch the movie, even though they might hate it, but you love it, you are probably a film fanatic, and if so, Fulfillment is the place for you.
Sometimes you dream about films. Do you ever do that?
Right. That's right. You ever wake up because of a film? You're like, no, Joker, no. The Joker had his hands around my neck.
I get that feeling when I watch Julia Roberts trailers. Just saying.
One time I woke up and I felt like I actually had a horse head in my bed.
Oh, boy.
I must have just watched The Godfather.
Don't be so mean, Martin.
Oh, that's Coppola.
Coppola, yes.
Oh.
Yes, big
travesty.
Already.
We're going to get the comments on that.
Yes,
Thanks.
we are. Send them to the comment section. I love it. Bring it. I'll catch you slipping up, too. So here we go. Let's talk about first the box office economics. Now, guys, you'll notice we finally have a change in this because it seemed like Jumanji and Bad Boys was killing this thing forever. But as it turns out, in our box office economics, we have some changes this time around. So let's start from the bottom and keep going from there. So at the number 5 position, what people are running to spend their money on is still in the top 5, Bad Boys, finally at $11.5 million. At number 4, the only film that has anything to do with Valentine's Day, and this is Valentine's Day weekend that we're talking about. We're talking about the weekend of the 14th through the 16th, is The Photograph. And look, it just barely edges out Bad Boys. It's at $12.2 million. At number 3, brand new, showing up for the first time, is a horror movie released during Valentine's Day weekend, and that is Fantasy Island, edging out the Valentine's movie, 12.3, just a little bit there. Number 2, pointless, right? A DC property, which is called Birds of Prey, or really the what is
Emancipation
it?
Of
the Fantabulous
Emancipation of Harley Quinn.
Oh,
they renamed it to Harley Quinn Birds of Prey.
Yes.
Because people didn't understand it was a Harley Quinn movie. As if that makes a difference.
Is it? Yeah.
Right.
Craziness around this. We'll definitely get into that for sure. Yeah. And then the number 1 movie right now in America that everybody seems to be spending their money on it and seeing it several times is Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's at $58 million, blowing everything out the box. $58 million to $17 million is the closest competitor at Birds of Prey. What do you guys make of this?
That there ain't shit out on that Metroplex, on that Filmplex. Nothing. We are dragging the depths, dude.
Woo. Mike at Keith's Comics asked me, "Hey, are you gonna go see Sonic the Hedgehog?" I said, "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not 8 years old." "Oh man, I gotta go see it." Yeah, it was like you told me. He has to go see all these movies. It's like, really? Sonic the Hedgehog? Okay.
It's weird because there have been a lot of people who said, "You know what? It's actually a fun film."
I've heard that too.
I don't want to hear it.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jim Carrey's back in his, his craziness.
Then I really don't care.
Yeah. I mean,
but and they're talking Harley Quinn being a legit bomb.
Yes. Birds of Prey. Yes.
They're saying that this did terrible.
It didn't fulfill expectations for sure.
Yes.
I don't know. It made its money back, I think, but you gotta in movies you gotta double what your budget was to be considered a success. And probably, I don't know if it actually will double its money or not. It'll probably make a ton in DVD sales. I'm guessing.
Well, I can imagine that it's going to be one of those that everyone streams. I mean, that it's the Redbox. It's the Redbox scenario that we're just
so
exhausted.
Maybe the R rating hurt it. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't think that mattered.
No, I just don't think anyone really cared. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone got so burned by Suicide Squad that that is as good as Margot Robbie might be, as good as Ewan McGregor might be. No one really gives a damn.
Yeah, and I think there's some themes in this movie as well, because this is basically female Suicide Squad, basically, and it's kind of like their answer to, I guess, if you will, Deadpool, because it's a rated R, very crazy talking person that's the lead of it all. That you're seeing everything from their perspective as they go through life or whatever in certain situations, and maybe that worked once before with Deadpool, but I mean. Yeah, Harley Quinzel, full name there. Sure, she's popular and everything, but I also heard, and again, I haven't seen the movie, but there's also some leaning at some political identity politics type stuff in it as well, more on the side of.
I could tell you one thing: she is a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Okay,
she voted for Bernie.
So yeah,
whatever. Take that however you will.
Take it however you will. So yeah, I guess there's a lot to that. And it has bombed pretty hard comparably. I think people who are really into the female empowerment films, which is certainly nothing wrong with it, as long as, if you make sure that you show everybody.
They got to be well made, though. This movie was not. I saw it, and I didn't.
Oh, you did see it?
I did see it,
okay.
And I didn't think it was that. I mean, there was some interesting visuals, and the storytelling was interesting the way they did it, because it was kind of a kept going flashback and back and back. Mm-hmm. But nothing really memorable about it. Yeah. Ewan McGregor made a kind of interesting villain.
Black Mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing really I could say. Yeah, you got to see this movie. I doubt if I'll ever watch it again.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie's great. I mean, her personality, she's a star. She's the camera loves her.
Yes.
So she's got her moments in this film, but as far as overall, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Rated C,
Yeah.
Very mediocre.
And I, as much as I love horror, I'm glad to see Fantasy Island, getting a little bit of due. It's still a PG-13 horror film that just never that just kind of throws me off already.
Something wrong.
It's nothing I'm going to
that.
go to a theater.
Yeah.
Nothing I'm going to go to a theater for. I might catch it on Netflix or Hulu or whatever when it goes streaming. But no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true, and I think finally with Birds of Prey, I think when female empowerment movies get it right is when they show that there's also a competent male in the film with them. I think that's why Wonder Woman did well, because they didn't make Chris Pine's character like this dope who couldn't take care of business or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But from what I'm understanding from the people who did see Birds of Prey, they were saying that pretty much all the men were just misogynist, essentially, and there wasn't anybody that kind of reflected in the positive light.
There was one good guy. He was like a restaurant owner where she lived, and she was friendly with him, and that was about it.
That was about it, yeah. Yeah, so I'll tell you why I didn't go see the film, and why I would rely on your testimony there is, again, when I see like 125-pound women kicking trained guys' butts with just a kick or a punch, and they just fall out like that would be enough to do it. I'm just like, sorry, I've watched MMA and boxing, and I know dudes who can lay you out with one shot, and I've seen dudes take shots to the jaw and still not turn their head and come right back at you. So it's going to be hard for me to suspend watching the guy just stand there and wait, come on, wait, hit me. Oh, I fall over and I'm out. I can't. Fight choreography is super important to me, and it's like if you make it unrealistic, I can't take any of it serious, because that means that the protagonist can do anything, and if they can just do anything. Nah, if you don't get a scratch on you at all, Mary Ray Sue, then why should I care? You're never in peril. Yeah. So, but that, folks, is what's playing in the theaters right now. This is some of the stuff that you can go out there and go see if you wanted to, or you could go see some of the Oscar films again if you wanted, like Ford versus Ferrari or 1917, or Joker still, or even Parasite, and probably have a better time. Let's look at what then is coming soon. There it is. Wiki. So, I've got 3 films that are coming out here in the next couple of days, or in this weekend here, the last one of February. The first one is called Invisible Man. Okay, so this is a 110-minute horror film, sci-fi thriller is what it's called, and this is how they sell it in the short picture here. I think this is really cool. I'm gonna try to put that reading booming voice on. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune. I had this written crazy. She suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turns lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by somebody that nobody can see. The director is Lee Wanelli, and this stars Elizabeth Moss, which could be interesting, Oliver Jackson Cohen, Aldous Hodge, who was in one of the guys who was playing guys in Straight Outta Compton. I forget which guy he was playing. I think he was playing MC Ren. Yeah, he's playing MC Ren. And then Michael Dorman is in this as well. So this is The Invisible Man.
Who directed it?
This is Lee Whannell, Whannell.
The guy, he's the co-star of Saw.
Saw. Okay. So he's the director in this one. So horror film, he's directing.
Yeah,
it's not bad, right?
No, I've seen the previews. It looks decent. It's definitely not the Universal Monsters Invisible Man, whatever. This is going to be a pretty hard take. I'm good with it. I'm curious. I don't think I'm going to pay full price for it, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Moss is a great protagonist too.
Yes, she is.
She's good in everything I've seen her in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the second film. The second film, also recently come out, is a film called Wendy. So Wendy is a PG-13. It's a 112-minute movie. It's a drama fantasy. So here is the synopsis. Lost on a mysterious island where aging and time have come unglued, Wendy must fight to save her family, her freedom, and the joyous spirit of youth from the deadly perils of growing up. Okay. So this stars Yashua Mack, Devin France, Gage Naquin, and Gavin Naquin. So I guess that's brothers or something like that. Two brothers there in this
Gotta
film,
be.
Cousins. Wendy, isn't this kind of like a Peter Pan and Wendy?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No interest.
No interest, yeah.
I've seen it done like 10 times already. I don't know. It might be good, but I don't know. It just doesn't grab me. Kids who don't grow up. Who cares?
Yeah, it's kind of wild how that's written. KZ, let me see. Would you break the bank and go into your budget and try to pull out some cash for this?
No. Just no. And let me reiterate that.
No.
Nah, man.
No.
Nah, if I want to see people who refuse to grow up, I'll go watch primary debates.
I'll go hang out at a comic book convention.
Just watch Elf again, right? And the third film that's coming soon to theaters is a movie called The Ride. So this is a PG-13 movie. It's only 98 minutes, so they were sparing us that, and it's action. And here is the synopsis. The synopsis is, this is the inspiring story of BMX champion who overcame an abusive childhood through the love and life lessons of his interracial foster family. Starring, you gotta love this, Ludacris is coming to the dad, Shane Graham, Sasha Alexander, Blake Sheldon, and it's directed by Alex Ravenario. I'll have a good day. So, The Ride? Anybody?
You lost me at BMX. BMX bikes.
I'm gonna go dig my. I think I enjoyed it when I watched it the first time when it was called Rad.
Right?
If there's no hell track, they just ain't gonna get my money.
That's it. That's
no
it.
hell track.
Well, it's funny because I used to race BMX as a youngster. And so I was interested, so I took a look at it. And it's not BMX racing, it's BMX freestyle, which is two totally different things, right? The freestylers go out and do all the jumps off the quarter pipes and stuff like that, but BMX is actually the motocross, which is bicycle motocross, which is the racing, just like motorcycles. So when I saw that, I'm like, man, this is freestylers. That's not BMXing. They're just freestyling and doing tricks on their bikes, which is still cool. But when I think of BMX, I think of bicycle motocross.
Does Lori Loughlin ride backwards on a bicycle during a prom? Because if it ain't got that, I get them out. That's it. I'm just hoping that,
Lori Loughlin. Blast from the past.
So I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry, but that's what Hollywood said you should be able to try to watch.
There is nothing out, man. What? Why are we even coming in next week? God damn it.
I know. What is up with this?
Oh.
Well, since that's the case, then what we might as well do then is talk about the Oscar hangover, in the sense that today we'll talk about our predictions, since we did make some predictions to see how close we are. And then, as a very interesting piece to this is, do you know the most famous movies that were nominated? Several nominations, at least 2, that still didn't win. And do you know that there's some classics out there that are also beloved films that weren't nominated at all? You may be surprised to see who some of those films are, but we've got our 3 best lists on that. But first, let's look at our predictions. Well, Carlos, I owe you 20 or whatever it was that we were betting on, because you got Parasite there as Best Picture, and I still had 1917.
Parasite, yeah. It was, I was just like everybody else. I was almost expecting 1917 to get the win, because this is the type of movie that AMPA, whatever, they like this kind of thing. War movie, historical, very well made. It's epic almost. But I wonder if the Academy was sending a signal that, they are moving along with the times, and we want to surprise people and nominate or give the best picture to this film, which was Parasite, which is a foreign film. South Korea also gave it the best foreign language film, or they call it international film now. And that was pretty amazing. A lot of people were very happy about it. Some weren't, such as Mr. Trump. He wasn't happy with it
because he doesn't read, so he's not going to go see it with subtitles. What amazed me is, man, can we get Gone with the Wind back? Can we get Sunset Boulevard?
I'm surprised he didn't mention Birth of a Nation. Like, Jesus, dude.
No, I didn't think about it. The first most racist film besides Birth of a Nation, and then a film about a delusional person who believes she's still a star and still relevant. Those are the 2 he went for. Just saying. Okay, I'm sorry to turn this into a political show. Please continue.
So I was, and I also want to mention Parasite. Yeah, it's a great film. It's very watchable, very well made. But I was talking to you earlier that Parasite, I don't think is even Bong's best film. I think his best film is still Memories of Murder. And if you've never seen that film, and hopefully this win will expose a lot of people to his works, because he's done a lot of good films. Check out Memories of Murder. That's an amazing film. Do you want to go over these other ones, or we're just
we'll take a look at them. So where we got it right, folks, is somehow we just couldn't miss who the best actor was going to be, and that was Joker, well deserved. Joaquin Phoenix, and we knew who Best Actress was going to be, Renee Zellweger, because she's playing Judy Garland. So Hollywood loves Hollywood, so that wasn't hard to pick out. But then we also got Best Director wrong, and again, it loses to Bong Joon-ho again, right? So we got Best Picture and Best Director wrong. So in terms of directing, was that really the best film? What do you think?
As far as directing. It's going to be debatable forever. The work that Sam Mendes did on 1917 is just, along with his cinematographer Roger Deakins, that's an amazing achievement that they did. It's a very simple story, so there wasn't a lot of plotting. And the thing about Parasite is, there's a lot going on with this film. And there was a lot he put into it as far as visual not gags, but things in the background that normal people wouldn't pay attention to. But if you're paying attention to the film, it will click in your mind. Oh, that's what he's doing there. And just the interaction between these two families, the rich family and the poor family, and how this poor family infiltrated this rich family, and then. Of course, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a lot going on with this film. I can imagine he put a lot of work into this Parasite, but again, so did Sam Mendes. But for some reason, this year just didn't. They picked Bong Joon-ho, which I think is deserved.
Well, and I mean, it is a big statement on Asian cinema and the impact it's having and it's going to have in years to come. To be really honest with you, like I said, you're seeing a success story in Bong Joon-ho, who paid wonderful tribute to Scorsese during his speech, but also like I said, you're getting this week. You're getting Snowpiercer as a TV series on TNT.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show you, like I said, Hollywood isn't making films for Americans anymore.
Yeah.
Hollywood is trying to get out there to an international audience, and very much you're looking at Korea, you're looking at Japan, you're looking at China, and you're looking at Europe. You're not.
That's a good point.
You're not making movies for American audiences anymore because Americans are streaming all their stuff now. They're not going to the Cineplex.
And they're not very thoughtful movies either. They're not artist driven like the films of the 70s, the Robert Altman films.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where those guys are just making films for art, and making, subversive statements in some of them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that anymore.
Well, if you are, you're seeing attached to an already familiar property.
Mhm.
Yes.
Nothing original anymore.
Like Joker. Joker is essentially, this generation's Dog Day Afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Taxi Driver, King of Comedy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And it has to tie to a familiar. It has to tie to familiar thing to get audiences into a Cineplex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think from a craft perspective, you have to say, bring it on. We need more people just like Bong Joon-ho. And we need all of it because, again, as long as it doesn't just become about, well, let's just focus just on the international dollars, because obviously a lot of these films that are blockbusters here make most of their money overseas, right? If you look at what most of the box office receipts are for some of the biggest hits here, the only exception was Black Panther. Black Panther was mostly domestic money than the international money. But with the other films, if you look at like Avengers, that's mostly international money, more money there than it is domestically, which makes sense. You got all these other countries. But I think the great part about it is we get some new stylistic directors coming in. What I don't want to happen, because Hollywood sometimes seems to take the worst idea out of it, which is, well, since we can make more money there, let's start making all of our films so that we can get more money. And if it's just for that reason, then you'll have a bunch of films, which I don't think the American culture is going to want to watch a bunch of films, that they don't recognize or relate to in some kind of way, which is always going to be something you have to always balance. But I don't want that to come into someone's head. I just want a director to say, this is a good story. These are great actors. Go. I don't want it to be overthought with, well, but if we put some people in here, that will draw the international office and da-da-da-da-da. Now we'll make more money.
Filmmaking by committee,
Yeah, I'm just like...
And I also don't want to see Bong Joon-ho, next thing you know, he's making a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie.
No.
Please, for the love of God, no.
Mm-hmm.
We got that with Ang Lee.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, Hulk.
Yeah.
Sorry about your damn luck.
So how about that? So as it turns out then, if you all were watching 2 weeks ago, I owe Carlos a Coke because we were betting on this with our our predictions, and it turns out that he got Parasite. I just did not see that coming. And at the same time, it's a welcome surprise. I don't think it's the bad thing.
Yeah,
I just want Hollywood to get the right message from this and not just try to farm it out.
Let's not, let's kind of cut down on the Oscar so white, now they can't. Can't make that argument anymore.
Oh, and I do want to say that I was correct. Cat still sucks. Anyway.
That's right. And in fact, now that we've said that, that's a great segue, because not only did Carlos and I have our own little thing going here, but someone else, the big voice behind the camera, had something to say about the worst pieces of crap that you probably won't waste your time seeing. I don't know. How did that work out for you, Kazak? Were you right? Did you win against yourself on these?
Well, we're waiting for the Razzies to come out in March, but still, Cat still sucks. Tyler Perry is still the worst actress ever. And if you want to talk, serving a subserved community, you're getting Tyler Perry movies. Good God, give me, It's not a surprise that the Dolomite documentary is doing well because that's the type of film that was serving community back in the 70s. Now we're getting this underserved community with all these with a lot of terrible films or films that are not getting released. it's just absolutely maddening that Tyler Perry makes millions of dollars off of substandard crap. I don't get it. And
he's a discount Flip Wilson. Flip Wilson was doing this way before he was doing it.
Amen.
Going in drag and doing comedy. So And how many Oscars did Flip Wilson win? I don't know.
None.
We'll just check. How many Lifetime Achievement Awards did Flip Wilson win? I don't know. We'll just check. So.
Done and done.
That's exactly it.
And of course, why does Travolta keep getting work?
Oh my gosh.
Or is it just that that he ain't making his payments to Scientology? Does he owe Xenu money?
Now, I didn't see that film. Did he dance in it? Because someone said there's a rumor that John Travolta dances in almost every movie he's in. Did he dance in this movie?
I'm sure he did the pee-pee dance.
Oh,
Somewhere in there. He's dancing on glass if he thinks he's going to get decent roles again. All right, I'm done.
There it is. All right. So now, for all of you who are watching, maybe you saw the thumbnail to this and you said, I want to see what's going on. Well, now we're about to get there. If this is what you're wanting to see, here it is. So what we're going to do now is spend some time. We're going to give you our list. There's that wiki. We're going to start first with the 3 films from each of us that were nominated and had a minimum of at least 2 nominations and still didn't win an Oscar. And these are favorites. These are classics, and they're probably in your DVD collection. So we'll start with the film Samurai.
All right, let's go. 2006, Children of Men. Alfonso Cuarón directed. It was nominated for 3 Oscars: screenplay, cinematography, and film editing, and didn't win in any category.
Wow.
It was atrocious because this film is incredible. Especially the cinematography by Emmanuel Lubezki. They call him Chivo. This is a guy who also did The Revenant. This guy's he's an artist with a camera, and there's some shots in this film. There's those long takes where Clive Owen's character is running through the street and goes on forever. There's another great scene where there's an escape in a car, and the editing, of course. Oh my God, this film, the way it was put together, I think it was deserving of a lot more credit than it had in that particular year. Another film, 1954, Rear Window.
Yeah, Hitchcock.
Oh my God, this film is like considered one of the best. Whenever they have critics' lists of best films of all time, Rear Window is always in the top 5, at least top 10. Director Hitchcock did not win Academy Award for this, not for the screenplay. The cinematography in this film is also, it's phenomenal. I think also it didn't even get nominated for costume. I believe Edith Head did the costumes for the film, especially Grace Kelly's dresses and things.
Oh, God, Grace Kelly's a vision.
Yeah.
You've seen this film.
Yeah.
It's like seeing an angel, a vision of an angel. So the costumes in this film are incredible. It's astounding that this film didn't get at least Best Director, because this film is like the epitome of suspense, and it's one location. It's an apartment tenement building where a guy's just looking out his window and looking into the apartment of another tenant, and that's all you have. And he creates so much with this one location. So that's incredible. Taxi Driver, 1976, 4 Academy Award nominations for Best Picture, Best Actor for Robert De Niro, Best Actress for Jodie Foster, and original score by Bernard Herrmann. And the score by Bernard Herrmann is probably one of my all-time favorite scores in a film. It's a very it really sets the mood for the film, because the film itself is very dark, and this film, of course, is inspired and influenced a lot of other films. De Niro's performance is iconic, as Travis Bickle. Everybody references, "Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?" Jodie Foster, I don't remember how old she was when she made this film. I know she was like a teenager at least. But she had this natural ability as an actress at such a young age, and to not be recognized for that was shocking to me. I think she really deserved that Oscar for that film. As far as I'm concerned, it should have got Best Picture that year. It's one of my all-time favorite films, but it's just one of those things. Great films just didn't get the Oscar. I think maybe it was too dark for the Academy. It was too nihilistic for the voters. They wanted something more Hollywood, upbeat. It's set in New York City. You know, it's not bright and cheerful, and it's not no romance in it at all. It's like, oh my God, he takes her on a first date to a porn theater. You know, this is like, good Lord. Yeah, talking about. But that was it. Those are my three films that were nominated for at least 3 Academy Awards and didn't bring home.
Didn't win
one.
anything at all. Yeah. How about you, K-Zach?
All right, so my 3 that were okay, we're doing nominated but never won, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So my first is going to be a film that was ahead of its time, Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
This is a
All-time
film that
favorites.
was honestly ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
It's a film that, like I said, had 2 nominations, one for Best Art Direction, one for Best Costume Design. But I mean, this is a film that was it's a gorgeous film. Tremendous acting, and it's beautifully shot. It is a really one of those films that is perfect from beginning to end. Even it's 3.5 hours, but it is a hugely impactful 3.5 hours. It shows struggle, it shows beauty, it shows love, craziness. It is absolutely.
It even has
one of those
humor in
films.
it, which
Yeah.
is just amazing. So well done.
Yeah, it is such a great film, and it is absolutely ahead of its time. That you?
That was weird, yeah.
Okay, but what was it? Mifune was the
Toshido Mifune.
Thank you. Tremendous actor, and of course, Kurosawa is just one of the directors who really sets the standard for what it is. And I mean, it was just so ahead of its time for American audiences that it never got the respect that it did when it got created, but it certainly got the respect it deserved later on. It's one of those films that you go back and revisit and went, yeah, that's a real classic.
I watched that many times.
The second one that I want to talk about is Being John Malkovich.
Yes.
This is a film that is just so strange. It doesn't fall into any real category. Because it's half fantasy, it's half comedy, it's half drama. It's just a bizarrely weird film that's just so well made and strange that I don't think it really caught on with mainstream audiences, and again, way ahead of its time for what the Oscars should have been awarding. But I mean, everyone in the film, Catherine Keener, who got nominated for Best Actress, Best Director Spike Jonze, and Best Writing Charlie Kaufman, all 3 of them just making impacts in this film. This is really kind of a film put Catherine Keener on a map. This is a film that gave Cameron Diaz kind of a different look. It's a film that a remarkable performance from John Malkovich.
Oh my God.
And it just goes to show why they chose him for the center role. But like I said, again, it was one of those films that was really kind of ahead of its time. But I don't think it ever got the critical credit it deserved, but it certainly got the audiences talking, and it's a film that we're still going to talk about for years.
Yeah.
Because it's so bizarre and absurd, but it's so entertaining, and it's something kind of sad. It really is kind of a sad ending. The third one that I'll go over, and this is the one that I think was truly robbed, because when we're talking Oscars So White, this is the film that kind of really goes back to it, and it's Do the Right Thing.
Oh, wow, yeah.
This is the film that for me started my love of independent film. Everything from the color to the performances to the camera angles to the intense statements on racial relations. I mean, like I'm a kid from a real small rural town, so I'm getting none of this stuff except for what I see in the news. So getting to see it actually performed in front of me on a really just great movie, and then this is also me getting to understand that Hollywood was again underserving a community with a story that wasn't being told. This one only gets 2 Academy Award nominations: Best Actor for Supporting Role for Danny Aiello, and Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen, Spike Lee. So I mean, he's totally left out of the conversation when it comes to Best Director. And the thing is that he was really doing good stuff at this time with a really great cast. I mean, you have Ruby Dee, Ossie Davis, Giancarlo Esposito, just people who were going to make an impact. John Turturro, Danny Aiello, just all these great actors, and he's doing a really, hurtful story. And you feel that intensity. You feel that whenever you watch this movie. And it should cause you outrage. But the thing is that the critical aspect, you got cheated out of that outrage later on. And I think it's one of those films that, we're still going to talk about when it comes to robberies of the Oscars. This is the one that I think really started the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Way ahead of time. It should have already been considered. And I'm glad we have a show like this where we can actually talk about this, right? Well, I have 3 as well before we move to the ones that were never nominated, which will also shock you. How about this? Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Okay, I had to look it up twice, okay, to make sure how many Oscar nominations it had. This thing was nominated 7 times. Originally, I thought it was 5, but it was nominated for 7 and didn't win an Oscar at all. Now, it bombed in the box office in terms of, looking at it from a money perspective. But what you have there, this is a Stephen King novella that was translated over, so it should have won at least best adaptation from a screenplay from a book.
Absolutely.
And
the writing in that is
the writing is
incredible. The lines
incredible.
are memorable. It's a sign of a good film when you remember certain scenes and lines and words and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it's not the typical Stephen King story.
It's not a horror movie. It's not a...
So when you look at Tim Robbins, who was just killing at that time, and of course, who can forget about Morgan Freeman? I mean, he's the guy that when he's in a film, he's going to dominate. Whatever piece of video that you put him on, whatever cinematography, whatever you line him up in a shot, he's going to win that shot no matter what you do. And he was doing it even back then, all the way up until now. I think the first time I saw Morgan Freeman was on The Electric Company as a kid. On The Electric Company on Channel 13.
Exactly.
Yeah, how about that? And then here he is transforming. He plays God, he plays Red, he plays all these famous characters here. So that's pretty awesome. A second one, this might surprise you folks, but it's a Christopher Nolan joint, Memento. It only had 2 nominations and did not win. And I'm thinking, best editing, the non-linear storytelling of the story with Guy Pearce as your lead character.
At least writing, man.
Yes.
What an original film. I think that's part of the Academy doesn't like originality. They just want the same old tired retread stuff over and over you've seen before.
Yeah.
And they don't reward originality at all.
No.
It's like, God almighty.
We need to see yet another movie starring Meryl Streep as some other famous Hollywood person or something. And it's like, no, let's do something completely outside of Hollywood. Let's make it fun, yo. So my number 1 film that I have on this list of couldn't believe it was nominated and didn't win anything at all, and this would be Sicario. This has 3 nominations, didn't win for anything. And this is, you're talking about Benicio del Toro here. You're talking about Emily Blunt and Josh Brolin. Right? You're talking about Mexican cartel, drugs, the CIA, the FBI, and then who can you trust? Who watches over those who watch over those who they watch over, right? Kind of like The Watchmen, right? That same thing here. When you watch this film, you're trying to figure out, now who's really the bad guy? Because, obviously the cartel should be, but is there? So that film asked you to look at even the people who you think are the good guys as much as you're already ready to condemn the bad guys.
What were the nominations it got?
The 3 nominations. One was best story. One was actually for screenplay, and the other one was for costume. That's crazy.
Costume. What? I was surprised you didn't get for cinematography because Roger Deakins shot this film, and there's some beautiful shots. There's a great scene where these soldiers are walking along. And in the background, the sun is setting, it's the blue sky, and it's just silhouettes, and then they just kind of disappear into the mountains. That's an amazing shot. And the music for that film, I can't remember the composer, but he's the one that died recently. But it was the music in that film was really good, especially that scene on the border, the bridge. Oh my God!
Oh yeah!
Holy crap!
Yeah. Sicario is not a film that when you watch it, you're going to forget it right after you watched it. A lot of the films we talked about today that are just hitting the theaters, that are the box office winners right now, those films you're not going to remember after a while. But Sicario, you're going to remember specific scenes. You're going to remember Emily Blunt,
Yeah.
and her acting, her facial acting when she discovers what she discovers. I don't want to spoil, even though I think people should have seen it. But and then thinking about Benicio del Toro when he at the very end what he
final scene
does.
with the cartel,
Oh
yeah.
my
Oh.
gosh! So you remember these things? These are not disposable films, by the way.
Right, exactly.
So do you think that, and again, this is me asking, is that do you think
Yeah.
that the Oscar audiences kind of got overwhelmed by the movie Traffic and didn't want to, and felt they were going to be voting the same thing again?
Well, I would like to know what they decide to get tired of, because there's a lot of retreads if you go back and see which films win Best Picture, especially international film. It seems to be the same kinds of films. Someone coming from poverty to try to get somewhere if they could only be,
Slumdog Millionaire.
Slumdog Millionaire. Yeah, it's the same kind of. So I don't know, but to me, it's like, again, what's your measuring stick? The measuring stick should be, this is a separate product. How is it crafted? How is it directed? How is it acted? What were the shots? What were the compositions of those shots? And then did it pull together? Did it have a message? And then when you left, what did you feel like after you saw the movie? So if it left you with no feeling at all, but if it rouses something in you, then somebody was doing something right in one of those areas, and you got to pay attention
If
to
you're
it.
still thinking about it a day or even a week later, that's something.
Yeah. So I don't know, but hopefully that helps. Let's look at now. This is the really big surprise for some of you. Did you realize that there are some of your favorite films, your beloved films, and then some classics that weren't even nominated, thus weren't able to even get an Oscar? This might surprise you. So, Carlos,
Okay.
in your three, what did you see?
Let's start up with the first one is I have 1973 film The Long Goodbye. This is a Robert Altman film starring Elliot Gould. He's taken on the role of Philip Marlowe, the classic film noir character. But in this version, which a lot of people didn't like, I guess it's understandable. It wasn't the classic Philip Marlowe cigarette smoking, rough talking. This was a kind of a I don't know how to describe Elliot Gould's character. He mumbles a lot, just stream of consciousness, always talking. It's a quintessential LA film because it's bright. You see beaches, you see the classic Santa Monica freeway, and all these settings. It tells you this is Los Angeles.
And it's Altman, and I think
And
that's
it's Robert Altman.
And I think that's kind of the cheat, and the fact that Altman's such a great filmmaker.
Yes.
But the thing is that he's a great filmmaker because he absolutely captures everyday life perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
The way people talk, not like like the big dialogue. I'm talking
Right.
normal people
talking over each other, and it's almost like it's just like documentary style at times. The camera just follows them. And there's this great classic scene where he runs out of this Curry brand cat food for his cat, and the cat will only eat Curry brand cat food. He goes to the grocery store, they're out of it. So he tries to trick the cat by getting an old can, putting some regular cat food, and serving the cat, and the cat takes one smell, and he just runs out the window. And it's just amazing. And that scene just goes on for like 15 minutes. It's like only Altman could pull that off.
And the thing is that Altman gets so overlooked because of that, but he's so good at doing it.
It's just like incredible.
That's why he gets cheated out of it for years.
I think it should have been nominated for Best Script, Best Actor for Elliot Gould, something,
Best supporting actor for the cat.
My second film, the 1968 film Once Upon a Time in the West, Sergio Leone, Henry Ford, Charles Bronson, Claudia Cardinali, this beautiful Italian angel. This film should have been nominated at least for cinematography. The director of photography, Tonino Delicoli. Some of the shots in this film are just iconic. The way he uses the camera, the close-ups, Charles Bronson, just rugged, creased face, the wrinkles, the close-up of Henry Fonda's Frank, his piercing blue eyes. And it's just so well made, and it's a very deliberately paced. It's very long. But it's just a magnificent film. It's one of my favorite Westerns for sure.
Yes.
Also the score, Ennio Morricone, had the classic, his scores are just add so much to films. So yeah, I think this could have been nominated for so many things and
my.
not one nomination. Maybe because it was maybe considered a foreign film because it was made in Italy, but it was English language, So I don't know about
Right.
that.
Yeah, and it's a great epic film too.
Oh my God!
my.
Yeah, it's just like you remember. This is probably on the list of a lot of people's favorite westerns.
Yeah.
And favorite films, even not just westerns. My last one is oh my God, Paths of Glory, 1958. Stanley Kubrick's. Some call it anti-war film. I guess it is in a way, and maybe that's part of the reason why it wasn't nominated for anything, because this is not a typical Hollywood film. It's so well crafted. The script by Kubrick and Calder Willingham is amazing. The shots of Kirk Douglas walking through the trenches, the World War One. There's so much to this movie, and I think part of it was maybe because the Academy didn't look at Kubrick as one of their own because he moved to England and he wasn't the typical Hollywood director. He didn't campaign for his own films to be pushed for Academy nominations. So who knows what the reasons were, but yeah, I think it's amazing that this film did not get nominated for anything. It's to me, it's a classic film in every sense of the word.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff. Kazak, what about you?
All right. So for me, the three that I chose here, the first that I wanted to state, and my camera's about to fall over. All right. The first that I wanted to go through was Stand By Me.
Yeah.
This was a really overlooked film.
Yeah.
1985. You've got tremendous performances from four young actors. You've got a really great, relatable story. You've got terrific cinematography up in the Northeast. It really is a beautiful, kind of intimate story that I think got overlooked, especially with Rob Reiner at the peak of his powers. Because he's doing Rob Reiner. I think is a really kind of underestimated filmmaker.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You take a look at his breadth of work from this is Spinal Tap to The Princess Bride. He is making films for mainstream audiences, but he's still making really good films. And this,
he did A Few Good Men, right?
Yeah,
That was him.
yeah.
Classic.
It's it's one of those stories that is kind of timeless because you can always go back to it. You can always find something in it that you can relate to. It's a really relatable, wonderful story. I think it was just one of those stories it was one of those movies that kind of got overlooked in the 80s because of what was coming out at the time. The second one that I want to look at was Rushmore.
Rushmore. Okay.
One of Wes Anderson's first films. Again, it's again one of those films that was kind of ahead of its time because I don't think Hollywood was really prepared for what Wes Anderson was bringing. But you've got Jason Schwartzman playing a megalomaniacal high schooler. Bill Murray coming into his own as kind of an absolute schlub, which is weird. And again, it's just a really great story that's shot in that great Wes Anderson style that I think
that script should have been nominated
later.
for sure.
Yeah. Again, it was just one of those movies that I think Hollywood wasn't ready for. It just weren't, because you weren't ready for Bill Murray doing what he does. You weren't ready for who Jason Schwartzman was, and it's just a story that's so out there and so strange but it's really wonderful for what it is. And for an early work, it's really a remarkable film for what Wes Anderson was putting together. The last one, and I kind of snuck in two here because they're kind of along the same lines. That's The Big Lebowski and Miller's Crossing. I put them on the same category because they're both Coen Brothers films. You've got Big Lebowski, which is by far one of the best screenplays, in my opinion, of all time. It's a film noir. It's a love letter to L.A. like Altman, but like I said, this is the big surreal type of film with characters that you absolutely love throughout the whole thing, and it's bringing back film noir in a weird, great way that only the Coen brothers could do.
Jeff Bridges should have been best actor for that.
Absolutely.
Oh my!
And the other one that I want to bring up is Miller's Crossing. This is an underestimated classic. Every shot in this film is perfect. There is no wasted time. Even in moments of silence and peace, there's a sense of menace throughout the whole thing. Albert Finney is just a truly intimidating character, and that shootout scene alone, where they destroy the house, is by far, in my opinion, again, one of the just great, top 20 action sequences of all time. Just the way it's put together. And again, it's what the Coen brothers do in film that I think gets overlooked. Maybe it's because you've seen it over and over again with the Coen brothers, but every time they throw something together, they knock it out of the park. And I think, again, it just gets overlooked because they're so good at what they do.
And that's a problem to have and not want to have at the same time.
Right.
To be so good, but then...
And again, Miller's Crossing, just, one of those films that kind of sneaks under the radar. Like, you don't even know what this film is. You pick it up and you go, oh my God, this is a great film.
Yeah. No, that's so good. I appreciate that for sure. There was one film that I did miss that was nominated, and I can't believe I didn't have it on my list. It was Malcolm X. That's ridiculous it was only nominated for two things: Best Actor, Denzel Washington, which he didn't win, and Best Costume Design by Ruth Carter, which didn't win either. So I forgot that in that last step. I would actually put that right in there with Memento.
And that's a really phenomenal film, too.
It's a super phenomenal film. And who cares if it's 3 hours long? Whenever I watch that film, it doesn't feel like 3 hours. You're getting the full story of Malcolm Little before he became Malcolm X, and you get a full understanding. As it was taken, as Spike Lee took most of that from the autobiography by Alex Haley. So,
and Spike Lee's just got to me, Spike Lee has always had a tremendous sense of color.
Yep.
Because you see, him going from his early days as a gangster and to the trip to Mecca, and it's just a gorgeous transition.
That
in
Mecca
the film.
scene is probably one of my all-time favorite sequences in a film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I totally love that. So with the three films then that were never even nominated, that should be Oscar films, and they're classics. Again, these are probably in your collection. And here's my three. How about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? 1966, Sergio Leone again. Who can forget about Clint Eastwood going up against Tuco and Angel Eyes, and that whole standoff that they have there? This movie was great again. Not nominated. They felt that the violence perhaps may have been too traumatizing necessarily and was focused on too much, but it did not get any nominations at all. You easily had cinematography here. You easily had Best Picture for sure, and definitely Best Director, because Sergio Leone
Best Actor for Tuco.
Yeah, he was nailing these films. So I couldn't believe that this one completely and so if you're a millennial or youngster, go get this one. If you want to see a good Western, and along with several ones that we've already mentioned today, that's certainly a
the whole Man with No Name trilogy, man.
That's it.
Really got to go back and see just all three of them, just to see even Sergio's growth as a filmmaker.
Oh my goodness. And you're a badass director when your lead character doesn't have to have a name. Right? He's called Blondie in a couple of these, but he's never really given a name. And so when Clint Eastwood defined him, a guy who doesn't have to do much, tells it all with his face, and Sergio just lines up and says, well, to get the reaction shot, let's just line up and just show it. And Eastwood will just look away from the camera, and the way he'll turn to the camera and look deadpan at whatever it is that he's about to shoot, you just go, golly, he didn't have to scream and yell, turn his gun to the side, yo, yo, yo. He didn't act crazy. He just looks at you and you already did.
That standoff in the graveyard.
Yes.
It's just close-up of three faces, and you're going, dear God, and it tells the whole story, man.
Yes.
That was the power of Sergio Leone, man.
Here's another one. Along the same lines, I guess we would say, is Heat. I can't
Oh,
believe
my
that
God.
this movie didn't even get nominated for anything. So you're talking about Michael Mann here, and he's got Robert De Niro, he's got Val Kilmer, he's got Pacino, and this great cops versus the bad guys deal where you want to see these two famous guys, famous mafiosos, are going head to head in one movie against each other, and then you throw in Val Kilmer would be Batman at some point.
Is that again? Does that what I was talking about with Michael Mann? Is he kind of suffering from the same thing that Altman was suffering from? And the fact that Michael Mann makes great crime films.
Yes, he does.
Just so much great crime.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And this is one of those films.
He's
that-
probably looked at as, here's a television director who's trying to make movies now, and but the thing is, man, his movies are just incredible, are just, I don't know, they're works of art to me.
Oh my goodness, yeah, the cinematography,
The
and then I
score
think-
in that film is
Oh.
also. I bought that soundtrack not too long ago. Just listen to that thing. It's just that final scene and that synth, just it just crushes me every time, man. It's just like when music makes you feel, That's oh man, it's nothing like it.
Yeah, this is a classic, folks, that didn't even get nominated. So, and you would be remiss if you had a video collection if you didn't have Heat in it. And so my number one film, I can't believe this, it's 1980's The Shining. Stanley Kubrick. How on earth, another Stephen King novel that makes it to the big screen, how does this not get any nominations at all? And you could talk about the scenes forever, could you not?
Right. And also, sometimes the Academy awards economically successful films, and this was probably one of the most for that year.
Yeah.
It was a box office hit. I mean, a ton of people went to see that movie, and a lot of times they reward that kind of thing, but they do have a bias against horror.
They do.
But
That is absolutely correct.
here's Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, whether you like her or not. Her
Yeah.
performance in that film was
Oh, man.
outstanding.
And
The
Scatman Crothers?
cinematography, yeah. I mean, what an adaptation. Kubrick made that book his own. He took that book and says, okay, I'm going to do what I want with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he changed it up.
Not even nominated for director.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I'm just trying to go through and find.
There had to be some kind of bias against
Yeah,
Kubrick for some reason.
Here's your best pictures for 1980 when Shining was released. Kramer versus Kramer, which won? All That Jazz, Apocalypse Now,
Raging
Breaking
Bull.
Away, and Norma Ray.
Apocalypse Now.
That-
one.
That's what it was up. That's what it was up against. And I mean, The Shining is still it's a claustrophobic film, but every shot is so wide open. It's insane that it didn't get nominated.
It's so good. They made a sequel of it this past year, Doctor Sleep, right?
Rose.
that doesn't give you the power. And yeah, how many people haven't parodied that whole line of Jack Nicholson tearing through a door and saying, "Here's Johnny"?
Hell, it's an ad campaign this year.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So what do you think about that, folks? How about you? Go ahead and comment down below. Let us know what are some classic movies, films that you loved that perhaps we didn't mention today, but that are on your list of films that you can't understand why they didn't necessarily get an Oscar. And we'll go ahead and bandy that back and forth with you online.
And if any of you nominate Tyler Perry, you're kicked off the commentary thing. You're kicked off the page entirely. No. Just I question your life choices.
So the next episode, as you guys know, we come out every second and fourth Sunday of the month. So the next episode will be March 8th. So before we leave, we do like to send out a couple of shout outs because we do appreciate everyone who spends the time, their Sunday or whatever day it is that you watch this with us. And so, Carlos, to you, who you want to shout out to?
Shout out to my son, Matt, my daughter, Nicole, Mad Mill, one of our favorite online fans, my cousins, Joel and Stella, out in California, and all my Twitter pals, whoever is watching.
Perfect. Love it. Okay, Zach.
I do want to shout out our guys on the Rantcore Pit, Eddie Medina and Cole Houston. Me and Cole are getting ready for preparations for AllCon. So, like I said, a bunch of us are writing game shows coming up here for a Fanboy Con coming up here in March. So, And like I said, if you like the shows here on Dallas on Air, give the other shows a shot. Check if you like sports, check out Best for Business. If you like Straight Up Talk, check out Say Something. Check out the other shows here on DallasOnAir.com because we've got a great lineup of just really cool stuff. And like I said, we're doing fun things, and that's why, like I said, DallasOnAir.com gives us space to talk about whatever we want, like films like this.
Excellent, excellent. So my shout outs again, more to the folks. Anybody that interacts with us online, you will get a shout out. So if you want to hear a name voiced over amplification and on a video that everybody can see that'll never go away, can't be deleted, then make sure you drop a comment so we can give you that shout out. So I want to give a shout out then to Tristan Fraser, good buddy of mine, Harry Thomas, who also reviews films. Troy Ross has shared this video and all other videos before this with other folks. We appreciate that. Michael Paul, good friend of the show as well. Daniel Meza, Mad Mel, of course. Eddie and Cole for sure. Stephanie Crane, who usually watches us live. Scott, Laney, and Sandra, who I keep saying is either in Illinois or in Indiana, but it's Illinois. So we thank you guys for watching, and thank you for dealing with my prune-deprived brain in the morning when we shoot this. So sometimes I might miss some stuff in the morning. That's how it might go. But next time we'll see you guys. It'll be in March. I have an idea. What do you think is the best movie ever released in the month of March? We might have to look that up and see what were the best films that were ever released in the month of March. Or are there none? But we'll find out, and we'll talk more about that next time in March. So until then, we're signing out. I'm the Vegabomber.
Sayonara from the film Samurai.
Yes.
This is DallasOnAir.com.